Chapter 36:16. Xiaobao tightens his grip on Mu Yan's hand, then raises his head to look at Di Mingju. His gaze is clear and resolute, saying word by word, "Father, you have to believe Xiaobao." Uncle Wei Ran didn't harm Xiaobao, he didn't want Xiaobao to die at all. Li Wei Ran is still sitting on the ground, his body tied up with a long black rope, his entire body dripping with blood. But his face no longer has that mocking, excited, or malevolent smile from before. His pale lips are tightly pursed, and his slightly drooping eyes seem to be gathering a storm. Di Mingju's gaze darkens, and his gaze falls on Chu Moli. Just what is going on? Chu Moli smiles. Just now, when Elder Chang mentioned the collapse of the immortal body, I thought of a very interesting curse. This curse is called Piercing Heart Life Extending Curse. As the name implies, pierce my heart and extend your life. This is a kind of curse that is specially created to save people. When the charm is activated, the heart of the person who cast the curse will be directly pierced, causing unbearable pain. However, the person who has cast the charm will obtain a new life. Of course, it's not that all illnesses will be cured, but some fatal illnesses will be counteracted by the Piercing Heart Life Extending Curse. But that's not all. The Piercing Heart Life Extending Curse is a curse with both instantaneous and eternal attributes. Instantaneous means that when it enters a person's body, it will disappear completely. Eternity referred to piercing my heart to prolong your life. This spell would never stop, and would automatically activate once every month, until one of the two ends his life. Because this curse is extremely self-destructive, it's almost extinct. I didn't think of it for a while. Only when Elder Chang mentioned Xiaobao's immortal body collapsing did I remember that Xiaobao's symptoms are almost exactly the same as when the Piercing Heart Life Extending Curse activates. Piercing Heart Extending Life? Pierce my heart and extend your life? Luo Yu stares blankly and says with some disbelief, "You're saying that Li Wei Ran pierced his own heart and extended Xiaobao's life? Is there something wrong with his brain?" Mu Yan laughs coldly. There's nothing wrong with his brain. Instead, he had already planted another type of curse on himself. If Di Mingju kills him with his own hands, the heart-piercing life-prolonging curse will be transferred to Di Mingju. From then on, it will be Di Mingju who will bear the pain of piercing the heart for Xiaobao every month. She carried the still weak Xiaobao and walked in front of Li Weiran. She looked down at him and said, "Li Weiran, am I right?" Li Weiran's expression was one of despair. He laid there lazily and stared at the sky without saying a word. The black ropes that bound his body were still inflicting hideous and terrifying wounds on him. Xiaobao can't help but look at Di Mingju. "Daddy, can you spare Uncle Wei Ran?" Di Mingju snorts coldly, but he still beckons with his hand, withdrawing his natal sword into his body. Mu Yan looked at Xiaobao's pitiful eyes and sighed. She took out a pill, crushed it into powder, and sprinkled it on Li Weiran. Li Weiran trembled in pain. Mu Yan's face was expressionless, and her hands moved even more roughly. "Li Weiran, do you know what it means to bring disaster upon yourself?" Xiaobao said in a weak voice, "Uncle Wei Ran, do you know what it means to not seek disaster and not die?" Li Weiran, Lun Yuma and the rest. Chapter 36:17. Mu Yan takes out the Tian Mo Qin and plucks the strings. Art of Qi Huang activates. The wounds on Li Weiran's body heal at a speed visible to the naked eye. Of course, the most important thing is that Di Mingju withdraws all the black lightning on Li Weiran's body, so that his wounds won't split open again. The zither treatment also rejuvenates the originally weak Xiaobao. The heart-piercing life-extending curse activates the fatal illness that was originally hidden in Xiaobao's body and uses the power of the curse to counteract it. As Xiaobao grows older, his cultivation gets higher and higher. His immortal physique gradually matures, and his talent becomes more and more frightening, but it also absorbs a lot of barren air during this period. If he doesn't think of a way to solve it, there will only be two outcomes. Either Xiaobao first steps into the immortal king realm and molds a perfect golden immortal physique, so that he won't be corroded by the barren air. Or his immortal physique collapses first, and then even the gods won't be able to save him. This time, Li Weiran used the heart-piercing life-extending curse on Xiaobao. Although Xiaobao was contaminated with the power of the curse, it also prevented his immortal physique from collapsing for 100 years. It can be said that it solved a big problem for Xiaobao. From this point of view, Mu Yan is sincerely grateful. It's just that she has never seen a lunatic who would use this method of harming himself and saving the son of his enemy to take revenge. Sure enough, a perverted mind is hard for ordinary people to understand. When the zither slowly dissipates, the art of Qi Huang skill ends. Li Weiran's injuries are already more or less healed, but his face is very ugly. The lunatic who always likes to wear the mask of a gentle youth on his face, for the first time, has a face as black as the bottom of a pot. Especially when Xiaobao's little face is straight as he scolds him. Uncle Weiran, why did you do something that even a child knows not to do? Huang Huang is more sensible than you, and knows the severity of things. You simply make people worry too much. Huang Huang, who is praised on the side, immediately sticks out his little chest proudly. Li Weiran is so angry that his teeth itch. He reaches out and grabs Xiaobao's neck, gritting his teeth. Little guy, who do you think you are talking to? Do you really think that I won't kill you? Xiaobao looks at him expressionlessly. Two pairs of icy blue eyes stared at each other. Uncle Weiran, you are too disobedient. No wonder your mother doesn't like you and your brother doesn't like you. When Li Weiran first heard that your mother didn't like you, his expression darkened for a moment. When she heard the last sentence, your brother doesn't like you either, she felt a little dizzy. What brother? Since when did he have a brother? Xiaobao's expression was one of, are you an idiot? Of course your brother is my father. Otherwise, how could you be Xiaobao's uncle? Di Mingju, Li Weiran. For the first time, the two of them reached a consensus. What kind of brother was that? The little chick was squawking nonstop. Idiot, Uncle Weiran is too stupid. No wonder her brother didn't like her. Just like Huang Huang, I'm smart and witty, everyone loves me. Therefore Huang Huang's brother and mother loved Huang Huang the most. Li Weiran took a deep breath, then another deep breath. He suddenly stood up. Motherfucker, he can't beat him, can't he provoke him, can't he just hide? Li Weiran, who turned and left with a cold face, didn't notice that right now, there is no longer a layer of mask on his face. There is no fake smile that can cover all emotions, no red silk that covers his icy blue eyes. Chapter 36:18. Uncle Weiran, come visit our Xiaoyao sect when you have time. Luo Yu imitated Xiaobao's tone and shouted, otherwise, Xiaobao will miss you so much that he can't sleep. Xiaobao said angrily, Seventh Martial Uncle, you're talking nonsense. Ha! Li Weiran almost stumbled and he hurriedly disappeared on the spot. At the top of the Heaven's End cliff, Li Weiran had just appeared when he saw the man standing not too far away. The afterglow of the setting sun shone on the man's almost perfect face, causing Li Weiran to fall into a trance for a moment. The little bit of vitality that carried the smell of smoke and fire just now dissipated in an instant, and was once again dyed with a deep, pitch-black hatred. His thin lips curled up slightly. What? Does Di Jun still have to avoid Mu Yan and Xiaobao if he wants to take my life? Di Mingju looks at him coldly, his expression mocking and contemptuous. Don't worry. Since you've saved Xiaobao time and time again, and you're my little brother, I'll spare your dog life. Who the hell is your younger brother? Li Weiran's face flushed red in an instant, the darkness in his eyes instantly burning into anger. He had to restrain himself for a while before he managed to suppress his rage. But he still couldn't help but grit his teeth and say, Di Mingju, what do you want to do? Di Mingju says faintly, Ben Jun had Star Wolf return to the polar domain to investigate what happened back then. This is the result of the investigation. As he spoke, he waved his hand and a jade slip landed in Li Weiran's hand. Li Weiran's eyes darkened and he couldn't help but sneer. His divine sense casually sunk into the jade slip to take a look. Regarding the information that Di Mingju has investigated, he doesn't believe a single word. But with just a glance, Li Weiran's eyes suddenly widened. His eyes suddenly turned crimson as he glared at Di Mingju who was not far away. That's impossible. Deming Ju expressionlessly says, Ben Jun doesn't know if this information is true or false, and doesn't care. If you want to know what happened back then, you should investigate along this line. Perhaps we can dig out something very interesting. In addition, this monarch will give you one last warning. Don't try in vain to harm Mu Yen and Xiao Bao again. Otherwise, I'll let you experience everything that you experienced all those years ago. Under the setting sun, the man's ice blue eyes were dyed golden red. That pair of eyes that are usually cold and aloof, but when he looks at Mayan, they are now as deep as a bottomless abyss. Li Weiran, you'd better not doubt Ben Jun's words. Li Weiran suddenly tightened his grip on the jade scroll. The next moment, the figure in front of him disappeared. He looked down at the jade slip in his hand and frowned. After a long time, he gritted his teeth and disappeared. This time, after Li Weiran disappeared, he never appeared again. Although Little Bao didn't say anything, he was still worried that the heart-piercing life-extending curse would make Uncle Weiran suffer. For some reason, he used to hate Li Weiran. But after Li Weiran saved him time and time again, he knew that Li Weiran was hard-hearted and soft at heart. Even if he did a good deed, he would use harsh words to hide his true nature. After she vaguely understood his childhood experiences, she could no longer feel any disgust towards him. If Li Weiran really wanted to use Xiao Bao to scheme against Deming Ju and make Deming Ju suffer, in fact, he had 10,000 ways. But he chose a method that would make him suffer the most pain, but let Xiao Bao benefit the most. Pierce my heart and prolong your life. Chapter 36:19. Even if there's a transfer curse, can he guarantee that it's Deming Ju who killed him? Even if Deming Ju really killed him, can he guarantee that the transfer of the heart-piercing life-prolonging curse will be successful? What is Deming Ju's cultivation, and what is his? Even a curse isn't omnipotent. It's easier said than done to successfully cast a curse on Deming Ju. So from the beginning he held an attitude of, let's just forget about it, draw an end to my hatred. From the beginning he never thought of hurting Xiao Bao and Mu Yen. Xiao Bao gently breathed out, threw these things to the back of his mind, and worked hard to cultivate. Father said that only the truly strong can control their own fate, and protect the people they want to protect. Xiao Bao wants to protect too many people now. Mother, father, martial uncle, rabbit, Bai Xie Huang, and Uncle Wei Ran. Therefore, he had to become stronger. City Lord, City Lord. An anxious call comes from outside the door. Xiao Bao frowns, and has to stop cultivating and walk out the door. Seeing him, the servant boy who came to inform immediately bowed and said, Greetings, little master. Xiao Bao lightly said, Mother went out to gather herbs, what business do you have with her? The servant boy doesn't dare to be disrespectful towards a child. His expression is even more respectful than when he met Luo Yu and the others. It's because this little master naturally exudes pressure and imposing manner, not at all like a 6 or 7-year-old child. Even the battle-hardened General Wei and the fiendish Lord Butcher are respectful in front of the little master. How could these servants dare to be rash? Reporting to Little Master, it's Luo Yun Alliance's Alliance Master Yi. He brought patients to seek treatment again. Xiao Bao stares blankly, while Leng Yuma and Luo Yu walk out of the side room and shout in disbelief. Another incurable disease? The servant boy nods, his expression a little strange. Reporting to 4th Miss, 7th Young Master has another incurable disease, and one of them was even cured by the City Lord. Leng Yuma and Luo Yu look at each other and see the seriousness in each other's eyes. Ever since Mu Yen treated the people from the Luo Yun Alliance, people from the 3 alliances, 6 families, and 8 sects came to her in succession, hoping that Mu Yen could treat their illnesses. And these diseases were really strange, and there were all kinds of them. The only similarity was that each was more painful than the last, and all of them were incurable diseases. At that time, Mu Yen and Chu Moli had asserted that these people who were sick and then cured were not completely fine. It was very likely that the illness would continue to break out. But who knew that in just 3 months, someone would get an incurable disease for the second time? Wasn't this floating island a little too strange? Could it be that some kind of infectious disease is spreading here? Little 7, go call 3rd senior brother. Let's go to the front hall to take a look. Xiao Bao, don't go. During this period of time, your cultivation has been progressing too quickly. You'd better spend some time to consolidate it, or else you won't be able to use it freely. Xiao Bao nodded, turned around, and returned to the house. In the front hall of Xiaoyao City for receiving guests, Luo Yun Alliance's Alliance Master Yi Xuesong, Sacred Heaven Alliance's Alliance Master Xiang Yunzhou, Clear Sky Sect's Sect Master Qi Menghui, Spirit Gathering Cities and Families Master Enlechi, Fantasy Sea Cities Baiting Families Master Beiteng Zhan, Micro Moon Pavilions Master Gu Tianping. These dignified 3 alliances, 6 families, and 8 sects' highest officials were all gathered in this small Xiaoyao city. Chapter 3620. At this time, they are all sitting on the armchairs, quietly drinking tea. But anxiety and irritation flash through their eyes from time to time, showing that they are far from being as calm as they appear on the surface. Behind them, each of them has several disciples guarding several stretchers. There was a patient lying on each stretcher. The appearance of these patients is more miserable and terrible than the previous one. Everyone's face is twisted because of the pain, and their bodies are constantly trembling. Some of them have their mouths wide open, seeming to be letting out mournful wails. But the whole hall is quiet, without any noise. Upon closer inspection, one can see that these people have a sound-blocking talisman stuck on their chests, so that the miserable wails of these patients can't be transmitted out. After waiting for a while, that familiar figure still doesn't appear. Gu Tianpeng, who has the most irritable temper, can't hold it in. When the maidservants of Liberty City come to add tea and pastries, he suddenly slaps the table and stands up, saying in a rough voice, "Where is June Mayan? We've been waiting for her here for so long, how come there's not even a ghost? Does she look down on us, the heads of the families?" The questioned maidservant says in a neither servile nor overbearing manner, "I've already sent someone to inform the city lord. Please wait a moment, Master Gu." Of course, if Master Gu feels that our Liberty City's hospitality is not satisfactory, you can go back now. Smelly girl, even a little lowly maidservant gives me that face. Who gave you the courage? Gu Tianpeng is simply unable to restrain his anger. He raises his hand to give the maidservant, who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth, a fierce slap. However, before the big palm leaf-like palm can fall, a burning and threatening blade light whistles from outside the hall, directly striking Gu Tianpeng's hand. Ouch! Gu Tianpeng lets out a miserable howl like a pig being slaughtered. Then, in the nick of time, he uses spiritual power to protect his hands, but this blade energy is too evil. The moment it touches his hands, it actually begins to devour the spiritual power that wraps his hands. A blazing flame surrounds his whole hand. The painful burning sensation spreads quickly. Although Gu Tianpeng's spiritual power eventually consumes it, a large part of his arm is still burned, making Gu Tianpeng's snot and tears come out in pain. Yi Xuesong and the others had been looking at Gu Tianpeng as though he was an idiot. At this moment, seeing his pitiful appearance, they could only sneer, and no one spoke up for him. Yi Xuesong and the others hurriedly stood up and saluted when they saw the group of people entering the hall. Greetings, fellow Taoists of the Carefree Sect. Seeing Leng Yuemo and the others walk into the hall, Yi Xuesong's face was calm, but his heart was in turmoil. 3 months ago, these people were just kids who had just stepped into the mysterious life realm. In fact, even now, these people were still unbelievably young, and their cultivation had already surpassed the mysterious life realm and the mountain opening realm, directly reaching the peak of the earth opening realm. Even the top geniuses on the floating island didn't have such a rapid advancement speed. However, in the Carefree Sect, there weren't just 1 or 2 such geniuses, there were 5. Even that seemingly weak young Master Chu Moli. Yi Xuesong always felt that he couldn't see through him, and sometimes even felt that he was more dangerous than the others. Leng Yuemo casually sheathed the red lotus soul-stealing blade, and said with a light smile, "Junior sister went to pick herbs, and will only be back at night. Have you all been waiting for her?" Chapter 3621. We can wait, we can wait. The few of them hurriedly said, "We are the ones who need City Lord Jun's help. What's the harm in waiting?" City Lord Jun is kind and generous, practicing medicine to help the people. Even in such a cold winter, he still went to pick herbs just to cure the sick. We really admire him. Luo Yu was drinking tea and almost burst out laughing when she heard this. What his sixth senior sister was stepping on was the material used to make the anti-heiress poison. Who would cure a patient with her? Picking herbs in the cold winter? For cultivators who had reached the golden immortal realm, they were no longer afraid of cold or heat. What was there to be tired about? How could he say that his sixth senior sister was kind-hearted? Had they forgotten how sixth senior sister had taken advantage of them the last few times they had asked for treatment? Who would have thought that these dignified leaders of the 3 alliances, 6 families, and 8 sects, who were usually high and mighty, would actually lower their statuses when it came to bootlicking? Gu Tianpeng, the leader of the Weiwei Pavilion, was ignored by the crowd, and his face turned pale. However, he didn't dare to leave. Let's not talk about the fact that his trusted generals had fallen ill. With the speed at which everyone was getting sick, perhaps it would be his turn one day. Gu Tianpeng seemed to have a bad temper, but in fact he cherished his life very much. In the end, he returned to his seat with an ashen face. Lung Yuma and Luo Yu looked at the patients that each family had brought. Even though they were already used to all kinds of symptoms, they still felt their scalps go numb. The symptoms of these patients were really too strange. Some of them had their intestines pierced through, but they were still alive. Some of them had huge pustules all over their bodies, making them look like toads that covered almost all of their skin. There were also people who grew a huge tumor behind their ears. The tumor was the same size as their heads. Luo Yu only watched for a while before shrinking her shoulders and running back to Chu Moli's side. It's so scary and disgusting. It's hard for sixth senior sister to be able to treat such a horrible disease without batting an eyelid. I only took a few glances and my scalp was about to explode. All the hairs on my body were standing up. Leng Yuma couldn't help but grit her teeth and asked Chu Moli, third senior brother, what's going on with these people from the sects? He kept getting all kinds of strange diseases for no reason, and even after he cured them, they would relapse. Doesn't that mean the Grim Reaper is watching us all the time? Chu Moli's gaze indifferently swept over Yi Xuesong and the others. The corners of his mouth curled up, and he said indifferently, I'm not a god. I don't understand the cause and effect, so how would I know what's going on? Hee, third senior brother, you're always pretending to be a swindler. We thought you knew everything. When it comes to acting tough, I only admire third senior brother and sixth senior sister. Chu Moli glanced at them indifferently and was just about to speak. Wei Mian excitedly walked into the hall and went straight to Luo Yu. Seventh young master, I have gathered all the materials you asked me to find for the puppet. Do you want to come with me to take a look? Luo Yu said, Uncle Wei, I've already said that you can just call me Little Seven. There are other subordinates, so don't stand on ceremony. After reminding her, Luo Yu recalled what Wei Mian had just said. She could not help but feel excited again. You really found them all? You even found the silk branch? Chapter 36-22. Luo Yu suddenly became excited. Since his cultivation had been upgraded, the puppets he had made were too weak. So he had been thinking of making a batch of new puppets. However, making new puppets consumed a lot of natural treasures, and a batch was very hard to find, so he had to put it aside. As for the method of creating puppets on the spot, it was fine if it was used to show off, slap faces, and act cool. However, if it was used in a real battle against an expert, it would be worthless and unable to withstand a single blow. Let's go, Uncle Wei, take me to have a look. Humph, when I make a puppet army, my strength will definitely not be at the bottom of the Xiaoyao sect. Luo Yu directly forgot about the leaders of the Luo Yun Alliance and the Sacred Heaven Alliance. He pulled Wei Mian's sleeve and was about to rush out. Wei Mian looked at him with a proud and doting expression, with a hint of respect and faith. You are General Wei? An incredulous voice sounded in the main hall, making Wei Mian and Luo Yu stop. Yi Xuesong abruptly stood up from his seat and strode over to Wei Mian, looking him up and down with a bewildered expression. After a long while, he shouted in a trembling voice, Are you really General Wei Mian, the divine general of the imperial region? These words shocked Xiang Yunzhou, the leader of the Sacred Heaven Alliance, and the other heads and family heads. They couldn't help but come forward, each more shocked than the other. Wei Mian's expression was indifferent, and he said slowly, "I'm afraid Alliance Master Yi has mistaken me for someone else? I'm just a small battle general in Xiaoyao City, and I dare not be associated with the divine general of the imperial region." Yi Xuesong stared at the elegant man in front of him, his heart in turmoil. He was silent for a long time before he said in a hoarse voice, "The battle generals of the floating island are divided into 4 levels: General, Cloud General, King General, and Divine General. However, since the establishment of the floating island, only 2 people have reached the level of Divine General. One is Divine General of the Dark Knight, Ghost Face, who followed the first emperor of the Lan family empire when the floating island was first established. The other is Divine General of the Imperial Region, Wei Mian, the supporter of the Lan family empress family who disappeared 20 years ago. A Divine General is equivalent to a magnificent army. Who doesn't know of General Wei's former grace? Who doesn't admire you? Even if I, Yi Xuesong, am too old to be unable to recognize the only immortal general of the floating island." Xiang Yunzhou was the youngest of the 3 alliance leaders. At this moment he couldn't help but say excitedly, "I once witnessed General Wei's peerless elegance during the Lan clan empire's military exercise several tens of years ago, and I still can't forget it until now. But I heard that you were killed 20 years ago as an accomplice of the Empress's family. There were also people who saw with their own eyes that your dantian was destroyed and the tendons in your arms and legs were severed." At this point, Xiang Yunzhou could not continue. At that time, Imperial tutor Yi Qingfeng had absolute control over the Lan family empire. The current emperor, Lan Yaozong, was just a puppet in Yi Qingfeng's hands, obeying everything he said. Just because Yi Qingfeng said that the empress's family intended to rebel, the Shao clan, which was related to the empress, was completely slaughtered. Even the Wei family and the Liang family, who were on good terms with the Shao clan, were not spared. And the most regrettable thing was the death of the only divine general of the floating island, Wei Mian. Yi Qingfeng's means were too vicious. In front of all the cultivators, in front of Wei Mian, he slaughtered Wei Mian's 30,000 bodyguards in batches. Chapter 36-23. The blood dyed the square into a sea of blood, which could never be washed clean. Wei Mian and several of his trusted subordinates had their dantian destroyed and their tendons cut off. Everyone thought that these people could not be alive. Because Yi Qingfeng once said with a smile that he would drag them to a random place to feed the dogs. God-level generals were killed as he pleased, and 30,000 troops were slaughtered as he pleased. At that time, there were voices of opposition and protest in the Lan Empire. But Yi Qingfeng's power and deterrence were too strong. Anyone who dared to resist or question him would be killed by him. Slowly, all the different voices in the Lan family empire disappeared. Everyone also tacitly accepted Wei Mian's death. Xiang Yunzhou never thought that he would meet Divine General Wei Mian again in Miss June's Liberty City. Wei Mian's face was expressionless, but his hands unconsciously clenched into fists. He said coldly, "If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave first." After that he pulled Luoyu to leave. "General Wei, please wait a minute." Yi Xuesong hurriedly pulled him back, his eyes frighteningly bright. "General Wei, back then, hundreds of innocent lives of the Shao and Wei families were slaughtered, and the blood of 30,000 elite soldiers dyed the Blue Emperor City. I don't know where you have been all these years, and what kind of hardships you have suffered, but all these were brought to you by Yi Qingfeng. Don't you want to take revenge?" In fact, at Ruan Yang's wedding, Yi Xuesong had accidentally seen Wei Mian. But at that time, he just felt that the man looked familiar, and he didn't think that he was the divine general of the imperial region, Wei Mian. After all, everyone knew that Wei Mian's cultivation and tendons had been destroyed. Even if he was still alive, he must be a cripple. How could he be unscathed? This time, if Luoyu hadn't called him Uncle Wei, and Yi Xuesong thought of Jun Mian's powerful medical skills, he couldn't be sure that the elegant man in front of him was Wei Mian, who should have died long ago. Wei Mian frowned and looked at Yi Xuesong. What do you mean, Alliance Master Yi? Yi Xuesong lowered his eyes and pondered for a moment. He seemed to have made up his mind and said in a deep voice, "Is Liberty City willing to cooperate with us? As long as Liberty City is willing to join us, as long as General Wei is willing to be the Marshal of the Demon-Slaying Alliance, we are willing to respect Lord Jun of Liberty City as the leader of the Demon-Slaying Alliance." What? Alliance Master Yi, we clearly agreed that you should be the leader of the Demon-Slaying Alliance. That Jun Mayan is just a little girl who's still wet behind the ears. What qualifications does she have to be our leader and command us? Gu Tianpeng is the first to disagree. Yi Xuesong waved his hand and said in a clear voice, "Everyone, have you forgotten why we established the Demon-Slaying Alliance? We're not fighting for power, nor are we trying to make a name for ourselves. We're trying to save the thousands of lives on the floating island. We're trying to give Yi Chingfeng, this bloodthirsty devil, the punishment he deserves." Miss June not only has the ability to practice medicine to help the people, but also has the auxiliary skill to raise 1,000 troops. She also has a peerless general like General Wei under her command, and an army of 100,000. I think she is absolutely worthy of being the leader of the Demon-Slaying Alliance. There was a moment of silence in the hall. Except for Xiang Yunzhou, who nodded in agreement. Although the others showed unwillingness, they still restrained themselves. Chapter 36-24. They were unwilling to let a little girl ride on their heads. But they had witnessed the power of the 100,000 soldiers of Liberty City with their own eyes. The Over-the-Wave Palace, one of the 8 major sects, had no power to fight back in front of the army of Liberty City and Divine General Wei Mian. Apart from the Luo Yun Alliance and the Sacred Heaven Alliance, who dared to say that they could easily destroy and annex the Over-the-Wave Palace. Wei Mian was stunned for a while. Then he frowned at Yi Xuesong and said in surprise, "You want to form an alliance to deal with Yi Chingfeng? The 3 alliances, 6 families, and 8 sects?" Yi Xuesong nodded. Yes, the 3 alliances, 6 families, and 8 sects. Apart from the Ning family, which has always been independent and aloof, even the Life Alliance, Wen family, and Snow Treading Palace, which have always been close to the Lan family empire, have agreed to join our alliance. Wei Mian looked suspicious. The Life Alliance and the Wen family have always been Yi Chingfeng's lackeys. How could they turn to deal with their own masters? Heh, don't tell me that Yi Chingfeng did something wrong and caused public indignation. His lips curled into a mocking smile. Back then, the Shao family was slaughtered, the queen was beheaded in public, and the little prince became a wanted criminal. You 3 alliances, 6 families, and 8 sects knew that it was all Yi Chingfeng's trap, but you didn't even dare to say a word. 20 years ago, most of you who were present here had long since attained the lofty status that you possess today, yet not a single one of you stood out to say anything. Instead, each and every one of you was more like a coward than the last, wishing that you could draw a clear line between us. How come after only 20 years, you've become so bold that you're willing to stick your heads out of your shells? Wei Mian's words were merciless. Not only did he tear the skin off everyone's face, but he also slapped them several times. He even slapped them a few times in the face. The sect leaders and family leaders all looked awful. The only difference was that some were ashamed, some were embarrassed, and some were angry. On the contrary, Gu Tianpeng, the sect leader of the Micro Moon Pavilion who had just become the leader of the Micro Moon Pavilion a few years ago, couldn't help but laugh gloatingly. It turns out that you bastards are no better than me. Then why did you pretend to be a big shot before? These words made the sect leaders and family heads, who were used to being high and mighty, even more embarrassed. They wanted to slap Gu Tianpeng, this bastard who did not watch his mouth, to death. In the end, it was Yi Xuesong who coughed lightly to hide the embarrassment on his face. He lowered his posture and bowed deeply to Wei Mian. "General Wei, we can all understand that you are angry. In reality, we're all regretting it now. It was our connivance and inaction that caused Yi Chingfeng to become more and more arrogant, and he's even gone mad now." Wei Mian asked, "What do you mean?" Xiang Yunzhou gritted his teeth and continued Yi Xuesong's words. "Yi Chingfeng wants to take out the heaven-reaching halberd. Wei Mian exclaimed, then said in disbelief, "Is he crazy? How could the heaven-splitting halberd be taken out?" Luo Yu could not help but ask softly, "Uncle Wei, what is the heavenly halberd?" Yi Xuesong subconsciously glanced at Luo Yu and his heart jumped. Before he recognized Wei Mian, he only felt that Luo Yu was just a young man with a familiar face. Now that she looked closely at his brows and thought about his strength as both a summoner and a puppeteer, the more she looked at him, the more shocked she became. Lan Luo Yu, surname Lan, could it be him? The correct chapter of Chapter 3625. Yi Xuesong suppressed his shock and explained to Luo Yu on behalf of Wei Mian, the king of beasts used his body as a sacrifice. When the heavenly halberd appeared, the floating island appeared. Tens of thousands of years ago, the heavenly stairway broke, and Lan Xiaozi appeared. He used his body and the divine beast he summoned as a sacrifice to forge the heavenly halberd, a sacred artifact. It was this heaven-reaching halberd that smashed a piece of land in the Xiaoxian continent. This piece of land then fused with the heaven-reaching halberd, finally forming a special island that floats between the three realms, Floating Island. Luo Yu's eyes flashed, then she lowered her eyes, feeling complicated. Leng Yuma gently patted his shoulder and smiled at him. Yi Xuesong continued, "The heavenly halberd is the foundation of the floating island, and the foundation of this world's survival. Once the heavenly halberd is taken away, the entire floating island will fall apart. The living beings on the floating island will not be able to adapt to the barren aura of the Xiaoxian continent. If they advance, they will not be able to undergo the heavenly tribulation and are not qualified to enter the Xiaoxian continent. They will no longer have a place to stand, and can only become ghosts, dissipating in this world." The servants and maids in Liberty City were also the natives of the floating island. Hearing Yi Xuesong's words, they couldn't help but gasp, their faces showing panic. Xiang Yunzhou said indignantly, "Yi Qingfeng has gone mad. In order to ascend and obtain great power, he doesn't care about the lives of the tens of thousands of living beings on the floating island." The people of the Sacred Heaven Alliance have always been in charge of repairing the heavenly halberd, so that it can better fuse with the floating island. In order to stop us, Yi Qingfeng tried to kill us many times. Last time, I was hit by the Golden Crow Fire Essence, which was Yi Qingfeng's scheme. If not for Miss June, I, Xiang Yunzhou, would have become a charred corpse. And my grandfather's emotions fluctuated because of my death, and a flaw appeared. When he repaired the heavenly halberd, he might have been tricked by Yi Qingfeng. This man is too sinister and scary. The Clear Sky sect master and the others also gnashed their teeth and said, "This crazy beast, he plans to use all of us as his stepping stones. He's not human at all. No matter what, we must stop him. My Beitang family's 10,000 years of foundation cannot be destroyed just like this." Wei Mian's brows were tightly knitted together, and his expression kept changing. His gaze unconsciously shifted to Luo Yu at the side, and his hands clenched tightly once again. He was very satisfied with his current life. Every day in Liberty City was peaceful, and the people around him were safe and happy. Most importantly, the smile on his little prince's face was one that his mother had never seen before. He did not wish for such a beautiful smile to disappear one day and be replaced by hatred and pain. Besides, once he joined the Fiend-Slaying Alliance, it meant that Liberty City and Miss June, who had nothing to do with the incident, would be dragged into the mess. What does the fate of the floating island have to do with Miss June? With the talent and strength of the unfettered Seven Sons, they might be able to ascend to the Xiaoxian continent in less than a year or two. There was no need for him to get involved in their grudges. But if he didn't do anything, could he really forget the blood feud between the Wei and Xiao families? The delicate figure who died on the guillotine, and the mournful wails of his 30,000 brothers before they died, the splattering blood, and the rolling heads. The 10 years of hellish torture in the gravel hill, and the humiliation Ruinyang had suffered. Chapter 3626. The leader of the Clear Sky sect said anxiously, "General Wei, what are you hesitating for? Have the years of torture really made you lose your courage and become as timid as a mouse?" Even if it's not for the Wei family's blood feud, you should think about the people of the floating islands. I didn't expect that an unparalleled general would be a cowardly good-for-nothing. Shua. The red lotus soul-stealing saber was unsheathed and pointed at the speaker. Lun Yuma narrowed her eyes and said coldly, "Watch your mouth, you dog. Have you fools forgotten what you came to Liberty City for?" Luo Yu sneered. "Didn't your mother teach you to keep your tail between your legs when you're asking for help in someone else's territory? If you disrespect Uncle Wei again, believe it or not, I'll kill you." You. The leaders of the families and sects had always been respected and flattered. They had never been humiliated like this before. For a moment, their eyes were spewing fire, and their chests were heaving up and down. They couldn't even speak fluently. Luo Yu waved her hand. "Everyone, please take your patience with you. My 6th senior sister has been very busy recently and has no time to treat patients. Are you kidding me? I, the leader of the family, have come all the way here to visit you in person, and you're kicking us out? Preposterous. Truly preposterous. Is this how the people of Liberty City are educated? I've learned something new today. Who do you think you are? You're just an inexperienced boy, and you dare to criticize us? Where's Governor June? Tell her to talk to us. I don't believe it. How can the governor of a city be so ignorant and ill-mannered?" As soon as the man finished cursing, a melodious female voice came from outside. "I'm so sorry. I'm such an ignorant and ill-mannered governor. I've made a fool of myself in front of you." As the voice came closer, a young girl in snow-white clothes slowly walked in from outside the hall. Her teeth were white, her eyes were bright, and her skin was as smooth as jade. As her eyes moved, she looked like a beautiful silver moon rising in the summer night sky, making all the stars in the sky dim. For a moment, the hall was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. Some people even swallowed their saliva shamelessly, their eyes blurred. In his heart he thought, "This woman is only in heaven, how many times can I see her in the world?" If he could marry the city lord of Liberty City, with a beauty in his arms and 100,000 troops in his hands, wouldn't that be the best thing in life? What more could he ask for? However, just as he was in a daze, he heard the girl's mocking voice, which was neither cold nor indifferent. "Since all of you look down on my Liberty City so much, then please leave immediately. Forgive me for not seeing you off." The last 4 words were sonorous and forceful, and it was like a basin of cold water had been poured over everyone's heads, causing them to shudder and sober up. At this time, the manservant and maid in the city lord's mansion had already quickly stepped forward under Mu Yan's instructions, indicating for them to leave. These sect leaders and family heads finally came back to their senses. "June Mayan, what do you mean?" Mayan sneered. "It means that you are not welcome in Liberty City. Please get lost." You. Ignorant lady, do you have any idea what you are doing? We sincerely invited you to be the leader of the Fiend-Slaying Alliance. We condescended to your door and asked you to treat us. We offered you a consultation fee that was several times higher than that of ordinary doctors. Is this how you repay us? Mayan was dazed. Fiend-Slaying Alliance? Ishuesong coughed softly and hurriedly went forward to explain what had happened and their decision. Chapter 36-27. Since we are going to join the Demon-Slaying Alliance together, we are as close as brothers and sisters. How can there be a knot in our hearts? Since there was discord just now, if you want to let it go, you should at least apologize sincerely and sincerely. City Lord June really has the demeanor of a great master. You are beautiful and open. No wonder you can make Liberty City flourish in a short period of time and develop to such a scale. We originally intended to let this matter go, but since City Lord June said so, then let the younger generation kneel down and kowtow and offer tea to thank you. At our age, we are more than enough to be their grandfather. We can still accept this little courtesy. This can also be regarded as a warning to the younger generation, to let them know what to say in the future, what not to say, and who they must not offend. The atmosphere in the hall was relaxed and cheerful. The heads of the sects were all in a good mood because of June Mayan's initiative. The little bit of depression that he felt when he came to seek medical help had also disappeared without a trace in an instant. But there were also a few people with different expressions. Yi Xuesong had a strange expression, wanting to say something but hesitating. Xiang Yunzhou frowned, showing a disapproving look. Everyone, since City Lord Jun has agreed, I think it's better to let this matter go? Gu Tianpeng snorted coldly and said in a voice that was neither high nor low, it turns out that City Lord Jun, who was so arrogant in front of me at that time, is just a coward who picked on the weak. Mayan glanced at him and couldn't help curling up the corner of her mouth. Gu Tianpeng didn't know why he felt a chill on his neck. He was so scared that he shrank his head and didn't dare to speak. The heads of the sects were severely criticized by Luo Yu and Lin Yuma just now. Although Xiang Yunzhou had spoken, they obviously didn't intend to let it go easily. At this time, seeing that Mayan had no temper after being criticized by Gu Tianpeng, they smiled and planned to sit back in their seats, waiting for Luo Yu and Lin Yuma to kowtow and apologize. Seeing this scene, Wei Mian couldn't help but feel anxious. What status did His Highness have? How could he kneel to these things? If he really had to kowtow and apologize, then he would rather kowtow himself. He anxiously looked at Mayan, then at Luo Yu, wanting to say something. However, he was surprised to see that the young prince and Miss Lung Si had a playful expression on their faces. They looked at those sect masters and family heads as if they were looking at idiots. There wasn't the slightest bit of anger or unwillingness on his face. Instead, there was some pity on his face. He was obviously in the wrong, but he was forced to kowtow and serve tea. How could His Highness act as if nothing had happened? Soon, Wei Mian found out the reason. Dumbfounded, he looks at Mu Yen and makes a gesture. Luo Yu and Lung Yuma immediately happily sat on the armchairs at the side. Mu Yen made an inviting gesture towards the various sect heads and clan heads. Servants, serve tea. The maids of Liberty City walked forward one after another and handed the tea to the sect leaders and family leaders. Other than Yi Xuesong and Xiang Yunzhou, even Gu Tianpeng was given one. Everyone was dumbfounded. What was going on? They were just about to sit down and wait for Luo Yu and Lin Yuema to come over and kowtow and admit their mistakes. Now that those two brats were sitting at the head of the table, what was the meaning of serving tea to them? Mu Yen looked at them smilingly and said casually, Seniors, why are you still in a daze? Didn't you say that you would serve tea and kowtow to apologize so that this matter could be resolved? I wonder who the seniors are going to start with? Chapter 36-28. You want me to be the leader of the demon-slaying alliance? Mu Yan's expression was extremely strange. She couldn't help but look at Luo Yu and Lin Yuma. If she didn't remember wrongly, just a year and a half ago, there was also a demon-slaying alliance on the cultivation continent. However, it was the Xiaoyao 7 who were treated as demons and slaughtered. But now, the tables had turned. She, Mu Yan, the biggest demoness, was actually going to become the leader of the demon-slaying alliance? This really made people sigh with emotion. The world was really wonderful. No, Mu Yan couldn't help but seriously consider Yi Xuesong's proposal. First, Shao Qi was the former crown prince of the Lan family empire. He had a grudge against Yi Chengfeng for killing his mother. Unless Shao Qi immediately ascended to the cultivation continent, he would be discovered by Yi Chengfeng one day. Secondly, Wei Mian, Butcher and the others also had a blood feud with Yi Chengfeng. Back then, when Wei Mian pledged his loyalty to him, he had said frankly that the biggest reason he pledged his allegiance to him and built the free and unfettered army was to avenge his personal grudge. Thirdly, Yi Chengfeng had once controlled and harmed Little Light, and he even wanted the Avicii Pagoda in the Tianguang ruins. When he found out that the Yi Liangchen in the Tianguang ruins was him, he would definitely not let it go. Fourth, Big Brother was taken away by Yi Chengfeng. Although his soul lamp was not extinguished, it didn't mean that Big Brother was safe. When Fifth Brother brought back the news, they would have to confront Yi Chengfeng if they wanted to save Big Brother. Fifth, and also the most important point, Yi Chengfeng was too strong. Even if the cultivation of the 7 of them had reached the earth-opening realm, Mu Yan didn't think that the 7 of them could be his opponent. Although Di Mingju and Luo Yunxiao were strong, They were restricted by the rules of heaven because they belonged to the cultivation continent. Once they made a move, they would probably suffer a backlash. This was the result that Mu Yan didn't want to see. Therefore, it was a good idea to cooperate with the 3 alliances, 6 families and 8 major sects on the floating island. Seeing the change in Mu Yan's expression, the people in the hall knew that she was tempted by this proposal. The patriarch of the Beiteng family stroked his beard and said with a smile that was not a smile, "Since Lord Jun is able to become the lord of a city, I presume you wouldn't be like a little kid who doesn't have the slightest foresight and strategic vision, right? Since the Guard General is in Liberty City, as long as this news spreads out, Liberty City will become a thorn in Yi Qingfeng's side. Only by joining the demon-slaying alliance will you have a chance to survive from Yi Qingfeng. We can ignore the words of young Master Lan and Miss Lung just now. As long as City Lord Jun is willing to treat the patients, why not let you be the leader of the demon-slaying alliance?" Everyone in the hall nodded in agreement. What family head Beitang said is right. As elders, why should we bicker with children? Let's just treat this as a slip of the tongue. We won't pursue this matter further. The man who had just quarreled with Luo Yu sneered and glanced at Luo Yu. "City Lord Jun, I think you should properly manage your subordinates in the future. Otherwise, you might say something you shouldn't say in public and offend someone you shouldn't offend. It's fine if you lose face, but if you put Liberty City in danger, I'm afraid it will be too late for you to regret it." City Lord Jun, Mu Yan nodded slowly. His eyes swept over everyone present, and he said in a deep voice, "What the patriarchs and heads said is reasonable. This matter can't be easily overlooked." Chapter 36-29. The sect leaders were stunned at first. Then, they understood what Mayan was talking about. They were so angry that they trembled all over. The teacups in their hands buzzed and trembled. "Are you kidding me? Jun Mayan, are you kidding me? You want me and Lechi to kowtow and apologize to these 2 brats who are still wet behind their ears?" Bang bang bang. Several cups were smashed to the ground one after another. The people in the hall were furious. "How dare you? Jun Mayan, who do you think you are? How dare you be so arrogant? Do you really think our Beitang family cares about a small Liberty City? Alliance Master Yi, Alliance Master Xiang, the people of Liberty City are so arrogant. Aren't you going to do something about it? If you really let such a person become the leader of the demon-slaying alliance, you might raise the next Yi Qingfeng." Xiang Yunzhou's face suddenly turned cold. "Be careful with your words, Leader Qi." Seeing that they stopped talking, he mocked. "Just now, I told you to stop while you were ahead. Who asked you to be so aggressive?" Yi Xuesong, however, frowns and says to Mayan, "City Lord Jun, can you let this matter go for this old one's sake? The demon-slaying alliance is an important matter that concerns thousands of creatures and the survival of the floating island. You really shouldn't get angry and delay it for such a trivial matter." Mayan glanced at him with a faint smile. "I'm sorry, Alliance Master. I don't think it's a trivial matter that the divine generals of our Liberty City were humiliated and my fellow apprentices were abused." Her eyes swept over everyone present, mocking and cold. "You'd better figure out what you came to my Liberty City for. You want me to cure you, but you still have a condescending attitude and order the people of Liberty City around. Who do you think you are? You should have the attitude to ask for help. If you can't, then please leave." The sect leaders and family heads were almost driven mad. "Jun Mayan, don't forget that Wei Mian and Yi Qingfeng are irreconcilable enemies. If Yi Qingfeng comes, your Liberty City will be finished. Do you think you will have a good end without our help?" Mayan sneered. "You don't need to worry about whether I will have a good end or not. Jun Mayan, you will definitely regret this. I'll be waiting for you to kneel and beg me. Let's go." Does she really think that she's the only doctor in the world who can treat illnesses? They angrily smashed their cups, waved their hands, and ordered their men to carry the patient away. Only Yi Xuesong, Xiang Yunzhou, and Gu Tianpeng remained in the hall. Mu Yan's strange gaze fell on Gu Tianpeng, as if wondering why he hadn't left yet. Gu Tianpeng rolled his eyes a few times. Suddenly, he picked up the teacup and knelt in front of Luo Yu and Leng Yuma. "I was wrong. I shouldn't have yelled and said bad things about you before. Puff. Luo Yu almost burst out laughing. Wasn't this person a little too flexible? In the beginning, he was the one who jumped and cursed the most. Now, he was the one who was shameless enough to kneel down and pour tea for her. He even kowtowed a dozen times without blushing. Gu Tianpeng kowtowed a dozen times before he got up from the ground. He looked at Mu Yen. Can you help my brother heal now? Seeing Mu Yen nod, Gu Tianpeng immediately rushed to the stretcher at the back with great joy. He held the hand full of pustules and blood without a care, happy like a child. Chapter 3630. Mu Yen couldn't help but smile. She ordered people to carry the patients of the Micro-Moon Pavilion, the Holy Sky Alliance, and the Luo Yun Alliance in. City Lord Jun, Yi Xuesong stopped her, looking hesitant. Don't you really want to consider joining the demon-slaying alliance? Yi Qingfeng will know the existence of the defending champion sooner or later. By then, it will be too dangerous for you to fight alone. Mu Yan's lips curled up slightly. Didn't I make the conditions for Liberty City to join the demon-slaying alliance very clear? It's so easy, but they are not willing to do it. What can I do? Yi Xuesong's mouth twitched. You want the leaders of several big sects and families to kneel down and kowtow to apologize to a few juniors? How can this condition be easy? Do you think that everyone is like Gu Tianpeng, that shameless fool? Mu Yan smiled. Maybe there's another way. What is it? Mu Yen raised a finger and shook it gently. If they quit, Liberty City will join. Yi Xuesong showed a bitter smile. City Lord Jun, you know it's impossible. To defeat Yi Qingfeng, the demon-slaying alliance needs the strength of these families and sections. Mu Yen spread her hands. If we can't reach an agreement, there's nothing we can do. City Lord Jun, don't you think about the big picture? Mu Yen turned her head and looked at him gloomily. What's the big picture? Do you want me to sacrifice the interests of my brothers in exchange for the face and dignity of those who have nothing to do with me? Alliance Master Yi, since you care about the big picture so much, why don't you teach them what it means to care about the big picture before they talk nonsense? Yi Xuesong's face froze, and he couldn't say a word. Gu Tianpeng applauded vigorously, full of spirit. City Lord Jun, I used to think you were just a short-haired little girl, but now I really like you. I hate those sanctimonious sons of bitches who dare not to admit what they have done, unlike me, who bear the consequences of my own scolding and kowtow to me. Mu Yen beamed and said, then remember to bear the medical fee for a while. Gu Tianpeng's laughter came to an abrupt end, and his face couldn't have looked more awful. He suddenly remembered that he wanted to get a share of the loot from Liberty City when the towering Wave Palace was destroyed. As a result, he was ruthlessly extorted. Now that they were being charged a huge fee, wouldn't the Micro-Moon Pavilion be emptied? Jun Mayan, this smelly woman, she really isn't a good thing. This time, the Luo Yun Alliance, the Sacred Heaven Alliance, and the Micro-Moon Pavilion sent more patients than before, and their conditions were more serious. This was especially true for the members of the Luo Yun Alliance. A few of them were already terminally ill. Even with Mayan's medical skills, she almost couldn't save him. By the time everyone was cured, it was already 7 days later. During this period of time, the sects and clans that had left Liberty City in a huff searched for doctors everywhere to treat their disciples. However, the result was not satisfactory. In the end, not a single person survived. This time, the patients included the elite disciples of the various clans, as well as elders with very high cultivation bases. It was easy to imagine the blow to the major sects and families when all of them died at once. However, when Qi Menghui and others were sad and angry, the news that Gu Tianpeng's junior brothers in the Micro-Moon Pavilion had all recovered came out. Gu Tianpeng, this big mouth, couldn't wait to make other people's jokes known to everyone. Chapter 3631. For a moment, in the southern part of the floating island, the name of Enchantress of Medicine, Jun Mayan, is known to almost everyone. The reason why she's called Enchantress of Medicine is because this Dr. Jun has an eccentric temperament, both good and evil, and her treatment methods are incomparably strange and treacherous. Her appearance is unparalleled, and her medical skills are unimaginably high. She can even cure an incurable disease that's already one step into the King of Hell. Just like a peerless ghost that can snatch a life from the hands of the King of Hell. It's unknown who first said the name Enchantress of Medicine, but it slowly spread to everyone. And similarly, everyone knows the arrogance and ignorance of the Clear Sky sect, the Beitang family, and the others. Have you heard? Next to Jade Sea City, at the bottom of the Heaven's End cliff, there's a small city called Carefree. The city lord inside is the Enchantress of Medicine June Mayan. Her medical skills are extremely superb. No matter what incurable disease, she can cure it all. Can she really cure any incurable disease? Every year, there are always people who inexplicably contract strange diseases on our floating island, especially the disciples of the major sects and aristocratic families. After getting sick, there's practically only death awaiting them. Many people say that it's the curse of the beast god, that one day, our floating island will be completely exterminated. Now that someone can cure us, doesn't that mean that the curse of the beast god has already been broken? But why did I hear that the Beitang family's elder Yu still died of a strange disease? His death was extremely miserable. That's because they were stupid. They went to Carefree City to seek treatment, and even arrogantly offended City Lord June. As a result, they were driven out. In my opinion, Elder Yu was killed by themselves. Is the Enchantress of Medicine really so miraculous? Half a year ago, my husband also fell ill. Although it wasn't as fatal as Elder Yu's, he's still hovering between the line of life and death. How about I also take my husband to Carefree City to find the Enchantress of Medicine? I'll go too. Unbeknownst to Mayan, the name of the Enchantress of Medicine had already resounded through more than half of the floating island. It was only a matter of time before it spread to the Lan family's imperial palace. Many people who were seriously ill or had close relatives who contracted strange diseases were thinking of ways to rush to Carefree City. However, Mu Yen doesn't know any of this. After treating the patients from the Luo Yun Alliance, the Holy Heaven Alliance and the Micro Moon Pavilion, Mu Yen originally planned to enter the inheritance space to learn alchemy from Xiao Jiao's master. However, an unexpected visitor came. Ningyu? How did you find this place? Looking at the travel-worn girl dressed as a man in front of her, Mu Yen couldn't help but reveal an astonished expression. This person was the female cultivator she had accidentally met in the Heaven Chaos Cave mansion, Ningyu. The two of them hit it off the moment they met. In the end, because Mu Yen was suddenly involved in the trial of Wu Shang Palace, they were hurriedly separated. After coming out of the Heaven Chaos Cave, Mu Yen did not see Ningyu again. In the meantime, he was a little worried. However, when he recalled that Ningyu's cultivation level was far higher than his, and that she had all sorts of strange treasures on her, he threw this matter to the back of his mind. At this time, seeing that Ningyu is unscathed, Mayan can't help but feel happy. Ningyu gulped down the cup of tea handed to her by the maid and let out a long sigh of relief. Then she touched her belly and said a little embarrassedly, "I've been flying on my sword all the way. I've been flying for 3 days and 3 nights without even drinking water. My belly is flat from hunger." Mu Yen, do you have anything to eat here? Let me eat to my heart's content first. Chapter 36-32. Mu Yen couldn't help but laugh. Of course, you've come from afar, I should entertain you. In fact, as a girl, Mu Yen felt that she and fourth sister already didn't bother with trifles. However, seeing Ningyu's sweeping manner of eating, she still couldn't help but be dumbfounded. There was a large table full of dishes, fish and meat, as well as some rare birds with abundant spiritual energy. The strong men in the Xiaoyao army ate half a table, and they were already so full that they couldn't walk. However, it only took Ningyu a quarter of an hour to empty half of the dishes on the table. Later, she felt that chopsticks were inconvenient for her to eat and drink, and simply used them directly. As she ate, she couldn't help but praise again and again. Then she vaguely complained, "Mu Yen, you don't know how abnormal the Ning family's rules are. After fasting, you can only eat original spirit fruits and immortal herbs, so that ordinary food and seasonings won't contaminate the dantian and meridians. Damn. You don't know that if you eat too much of those spirit fruits and immortal herbs, your mouth will have a faint taste. What do you think people's mouths are for? Isn't it just to enjoy delicious food? If I can't eat delicious food forever, I might as well die. Mu Yen couldn't help but laugh, but she also agreed with her words. What's the point of striving to become strong in cultivation? Isn't it just to live as you please? To be able to protect the people you want to protect, to eat what you want to eat, to go where you want to go, to fight as you want to fight. If the higher the cultivation, the more boring restrictions there are, then why don't I be immortal? You're right. Ningyu vigorously slapped the table, her eyes shining, and she couldn't wait to rush over and give Mu Yen a big hug. When she saw the grease on her hands, she shrunk back in embarrassment. But she still cheerfully said, "Bosom friend. Mu Yen, you're really my bosom friend. I've said everything that I wanted to say, everything that I haven't thought through. Come, let's drink a big white." Mu Yen smiled and picked up the bottle, clinking it with Ningyu's. The two drank it in one gulp and then laughed loudly. Ningyu's stomach was almost full by now. She burped happily and said slowly, "That's why I don't want to go back to that old-fashioned Ning family. Women must be dignified and prudent, virtuous and virtuous. As a cultivator, one must maintain one's integrity and not associate with evil spirits, blah 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 blah. It's so annoying. In any case, before my cultivation reaches the peak of the sea-splitting tier and I can break through to the heaven-shattering tier, I definitely won't go back. Hee hee. When I reach the heaven-breaking realm, I will be an elder of the Ning clan. There won't be many people in the Ning clan who can control me, but I can control others. At that time, I can do whatever I want in the Ning family." Mu Yen puts down the bottle and unhurriedly says, "Are the Ning family's side branches also so strict?" Ning Yu's expression stiffened. She uses the towel on the table to slowly wipe her greasy hands. She can't help but sneak a glance at Mu Yen before she cautiously says, "Mu Yen, I lied to you about something. I hope you won't be angry." Mu Yen smiled. "For example, you're the Ning clan's main family's young lady, but you lied to me and said you're a small fry from the side branch?" Ningyu didn't think that she would actually guess it herself and was gobsmacked. Soon after, she couldn't help but laugh. "Hee hee, Mu Yen, you're so smart as expected, I can't deceive you. Then do you know why I came to visit today?" Chapter 36-33. Because of my background? Mu Yen stared at Ningyu's eyes and said slowly, "Or because of my mother, Ning Yenshin?" Ningyu was more surprised than before. "Do you know it again?" "No, how did you know?" "Even I just found out about it." Mu Yen smiled and did not answer her question. Instead, she asked, "Why do you think I have something to do with the Ning family? Is it because of that strange bell?" Ningyu nodded and handed the bell on her waist to Mu Yen. "This bell is called blood-patterned bell. It's worn by every member of the Ning family from birth. No, to be exact, it's worn by our mother when she found out that she was pregnant. It's said that only by wearing the blood-patterned bell can we get the blessings and gifts from the ancestors of the Ning family. It can make our cultivation grow very fast, but there will be no inner demons or sequelae. And in times of danger, the various formations on the blood-patterned bell can save our lives. But the blood-patterned bell has a special property. That is, only the members of the Ning family can wear it. As long as others touch it, they will be hurt. It won't be a serious injury, but it will be very, very painful. If you let it go immediately, it will be fine. It will only be like being stung by a poisonous insect. But the longer you hold it, the more the pain will multiply until you pass out." Mu Yen reached out to take the blood-patterned bell, and immediately felt a slight numbness and tremor from her body to her soul. This kind of tremor did not make her feel repulsed at all. Instead, she felt indescribably intimate. It was as if someone had used a gentle hand to gently stroke his soul. Other than that, there was no other feeling. Ningyu said, "That day, when I saw you touch the blood-patterned bell, without any reaction, I guessed that you might be related to the Ning family, so I secretly went home to ask my father. Seeing Mu Yan looking at her, Ningyu quickly explained, "Oh, my father is Ning Zhongbai. If you are really the daughter of Aunt Yanxin, then my father is your second uncle. Haha, I should be your cousin, right? In these years, the Ning family has been declining. I didn't expect that I have a cousin now." After sighing, Ningyu continued, "I told my father what happened in the heaven mixing cave. My father was very shocked and excited. Especially when I described your appearance, he actually cried and said that you should be Aunt Yanxin's child." Mayan's hand on the table suddenly tightens, whispering, "Is my mother in the Ning family now?" Even though she already had the answer in her heart, Mu Yan still couldn't help but ask. Ningyu shook her head. "If I hadn't met you, I wouldn't have known that my father had a younger sister and that I had an aunt. I heard from my father that Ning Yanxin was a taboo in the Ning family. No one was allowed to mention her, or else the clan leader would be furious. Oh, by the way, the clan leader is called Ning Fusheng. He's my grandfather and also your maternal grandfather. I asked my father where Aunt Yanxin had gone, but he refused to tell me. However, I vaguely remember that 20 years ago, there was a demonic cultivator who barged into the Ning family. It seemed like he wanted to take someone away. Then, a huge battle broke out between the clan leader, the elders of the family, and my cousin Ning Su. After that battle, the Ning family was completely sealed off and no one was allowed to enter or leave. Chapter 36-34. Mayan nods, but her brows are still tightly knitted. According to Ningyu, 20 years ago, her biological father, Jun Shiyuan, really chased her to the floating island. And there was a huge conflict with the Ning family. After that, both of them disappeared. But did they really go missing? Ning Su's cultivation has reached Xian Immortal. There must be someone in the Ning family with a higher cultivation than him. And Jun Shiyuan couldn't even beat Ning Su, let alone the whole Ning family. Could it be that the two of them didn't manage to escape at all? Or were they secretly locked up by the Ning family? It seems that no matter what, she has to find a way to go to the Ning family's main family to investigate. Her mind is full of thoughts, but Mayan doesn't show it on her face. She just quietly looks at Ningyu. Ningyu says a few more wild guesses, and suddenly pats her forehead. "Hey, after saying so much, I almost forgot the most important purpose of this trip." Mayan looks over. She sees Ningyu's expression become extremely serious, and she says in a low voice, "My father asked me to tell you that if you are really Aunt Yanxin's daughter, then don't go back to the Ning family, run as far as you can. If one day the Ning family comes to the door, you must not admit it even if you are beaten to death. In any case, you must not go back to the Ning family." Mayan is puzzled. "Why? Don't your father and my uncle want me to return to the family? I don't know about this." Ningyu is also confused. "My father's biggest hobby in life is reading books, watering flowers, and raising small animals. He is usually very good-tempered, and he doesn't have many requirements for me. He's not like a Ning family member. But this time when I mentioned you and Aunt Yanxin, he was very excited and kept urging me to come find you. He also repeatedly urged me to advise you to stay away from the Ning family." Mayan is thoughtful. Ning Zhongbai, uncle? In fact, she still has a lot of things to ask Ningyu. For example, do they know that Ning Su has died in the Xiuzhen continent? But she is afraid of exposing the fact that she killed Ning Su, so she restrains herself. After Ningyu finishes eating, she pats her bulging and round belly, and her whole body slumps on the chair, her expression indescribably satisfied. After a long time, she stretches and says, "I'm full, thank you cousin for your hospitality. My mission is complete. It's time for me to leave." Mu Yan asked, "Won't you stay in Liberty City for a few more days?" Better not. In order to reach the peak of the sea-splitting realm as soon as possible, I have to constantly challenge experts and fight without stopping. I can't relax for even a moment. Although peace is good, it's not what I need right now." She paused, her eyes dark and firm. "My father has always been called trash in the Ning family. Even the servants of the Ning family laugh at him behind his back. As for my mother, because of her lowly birth and ordinary cultivation, she was looked down upon by the Ning family and eventually died of depression. I don't want this situation to continue. I want my father to be able to live freely in this world and not be trapped in a small bunker and not be respected. As long as I can stand at the top of the Ning family, everything will change because of me. Mu Yan looks at the girl in front of her, and only feels that her body seems to be emitting a brilliant and dazzling light. Her originally handsome features became indescribably bright and beautiful. Mayan's eyes are gentle, and she says with a smile, I believe that you will definitely succeed. Ning Yu smiles mischievously and pats her shoulder. When that time comes, I welcome you to return to the Ning family. Chapter 36-35. Ning Yu came in a hurry and left in a hurry. Both times she interacted with this girl were very short, but they left a deep impression on Mu Yan. She thought about it and went to Tianguang Ruins. First host. As soon as she entered Tianguang Ruins, the youth pounced on her. The current little light had already shed the coldness and sharpness from when they first met, and had the same childish smile on his face as little Tian. The two of them looked almost exactly the same. His appearance was that of a 13 or 14-year-old youth, but his mind was actually only equivalent to that of a 7 or 8-year-old child. Looking at the smiling youth, Mu Yan almost thought that she had returned to the Xiuzhen continent's Tianguang Ruins. First host, you haven't come to see Little Light for XX days. Hearing Little Light's precise number of days, and meeting his slightly resentful eyes, Mu Yan guiltily averted her eyes. Because she had already become the master of the floating island, Tianguang Ruins. So as soon as Mu Yan entered, she went straight to Floating Light Island. Spreading her divine sense slightly, she took in the entire scene of Tianguang Ruins in her mind. Seeing the Tianguang Ruins in front of her, Mu Yan couldn't help being shocked. After she opened Floating Light Island and rescued Little Light, the world of slaughter in Tianguang Ruins disappeared. What replaced it was a place where cultivators could barter and exchange goods, as well as release and receive information from each other. Just like the Xiuzhen continent's Tianguang Ruins. It was quiet and noisy, peaceful and prosperous. It could be said to be a peaceful paradise in a world where the strong preyed on the weak, where life and death fought. However, the floating island's Tianguang Ruins had been artificially changed. From a paradise, it had become a killing field. And for many people, there was no way out, and they could lose their lives at any time. Even if Mu Yan later lifted this blockade. The cultivators on the floating island still had an instinctive fear of Tianguang Ruins. So no one came up. The entire bustling and beautiful Tianguang Ruins was empty, like a ghost town. But Mu Yan never expected that after just a few months, everything would change. People came and went in Tianguang Ruins' city of trade from time to time. The afterlife square was even more packed with people. They gathered together noisily, and no one knew what they were discussing. Wasn't this change a little too fast? Little Light proudly said, "This is all because of you, first host." Mayan is suspicious. What does this have to do with me? Under Little Light's narration, Mayan finally understands the reason why Tianguang Ruins is changing so quickly. The world's #1 sect. Mu Yan didn't expect that Ma Quishan and his son were actually talented people. In the absence of him, they managed the lousy world's #1 sect to great effect. There were more and more people in the faction, and the hierarchy was strict. Moreover, they were all loyal to their leader, Yap Liangsh. Even after Tianguang Ruins was unsealed, everyone was able to leave. These people were also reluctant to part with the old master's #1 gang in the world, so they would come up from time to time. Ma Quishan took the opportunity to give all sorts of benefits to the gang members. For example, pills that couldn't be bought outside. There were also mutated talismans that were several times more effective than the Clan's talismans. Ma Quishan even claimed that he had some connections in Liberty City. As long as one made enough contributions and wanted to train in the 6 Stars Pagoda in Liberty City, he could arrange it. Ma Quishan's most tempting condition was, if the backbone of the gang had someone in their family with an incurable disease, they could make an appointment to go to Liberty City to receive treatment from City Lord June. Chapter 36-36. In fact, strange diseases had arisen on the floating island in recent years, and 90% of them were incurable. And so many years had passed. There was only one person who could save these patients from the scythe of the Grim Reaper. The Lord of Xiaoyao City, the Enchantress Junmayan. Over the past few months, more and more people from the 3 alliances, 6 families, and 8 sects came to Liberty City to seek treatment. The reputation of the Enchantress of Medicine also became more and more resounding. As long as one was human, who would not care about their own lives? Therefore, when they heard this condition, the members of the Old Master's #1 gang in the world were so excited. They forgot their fear of Tianguang ruins and started to report to the gang at a fixed time every day. They even took the initiative to advertise the various benefits of the #1 gang in the world. Gradually, there were more and more people in Tianguang ruins. The people who came in realized that Tianguang ruins was really different from before. It was very convenient to buy things that couldn't be found outside, so they were gradually attracted. Like a rolling snowball, more and more people rolled. Then it turned into the appearance that Mu Yen saw now. After listening to Little Light's narration, Mu Yen simply doesn't know whether to laugh or cry. Was Ma Quishan trying to build another Bright Day army for himself in the Sky Island Sky Ruins? Better not. She didn't plan to stay on the floating island for long. Right now, her greatest wish is to ascend to the Xiuxian continent with her fellow apprentices as soon as possible and reunite with Di Mingju's family, never to be separated again. Of course, before he left, there were still some doubts he had to solve. Little Guang, do you know the Ning family of Maomu City? Could you tell me everything you know about the Ning family? Even if it's just a minor detail. Light nodded. His body suddenly froze and became motionless, as if he was a puppet. But his eyes kept flickering. The speed at which it flashed was so fast that it was almost impossible to see it with the naked eye. It was as if it had flashed thousands of times in a single breath. Mu Yen was dumbstruck watching from the side, becoming more and more doubtful about the identity of Xiaotian and Xiaoguang. It seemed to be different from ordinary artifact spirits. And why did they call him the first host? As Mu Yen is lost in thought, Xiaoguang's eyelids suddenly blink. Then, he clasped his hands together and spread them out like a lotus. At this moment, a silver ball appeared in his palm. First host, all the information you wanted is inside. Please take a look. Mu Yen gently pressed his hand on the silver ball in surprise. The sphere instantly began to spin. Mayan's mind is flooded with countless messages and voices. The Wild Sand Palace, that originally occupied Maomu City, was destroyed in a single night. How is this possible? I heard that it's a clan from the Xiuxian continent. Their surname is Ning, but they look quite miserable. There are only a few of them. In my opinion, even the #1 expert of the Lan clan empire might not be a match for them. Strange, why hasn't anyone from the Ning family of Maomu City ascended? Their cultivation had obviously reached the peak of the heaven-breaking state long ago. Logically speaking, they should have attracted the heavenly tribulation, right? Don't you know? I heard that the Ning family is cursed. As long as you are a member of the Ning family, you will never be able to ascend to the upper realm. Chapter 36-37. Shu, you're crazy. How dare you speak ill of the Ning family? Even if this is Tianguang ruins, you still have to be careful with your words and actions. Don't forget that the Ning family isn't even afraid of the Lan family. Isn't it a piece of cake for them to kill you? Damn it, is that Ning Su of the Ning family a lunatic? Laozi's cultivation method is a bit strange, but it clearly has nothing to do with the demon race. He didn't even listen to my explanation and slashed at Laozi. All right. You're lucky to have escaped. It's all thanks to the young miss of the Ning family who arrived at the critical moment and saved your worthless life. But that young miss of the Ning family is really beautiful. Whoever can marry such a celestial immortal will have made a fortune in this lifetime. Young Master Ning, spare me. I'm just saying it casually, I didn't really mean it to young Miss Ning. Shut your filthy mouth, you're not worthy of profaning her. Ah! Mu Yen withdrew her hand, frowning. The information left by the Ning family in Tianguang ruins was really too little. There were almost only a few words mentioned by others. And during the most important period when Jun Xiuan broke into the Ning family, Tianguang ruins had already changed, so it was naturally impossible to leave any relevant records. But some information could still be extracted from these pieces of information. For example, the Ning family wasn't native residents of the floating island, but migrated from the Xiuxian continent. That was very strange. She had heard of clans migrating from the lower realm to the upper realm, but she had never heard of one deliberately descending from the high and mighty Xiuxian continent. Unless they couldn't stay in the Xiuxian continent any longer. For example, they were cursed. Or, they offended the demon race. Little Light's eyes were bright as he looked hopefully at Mu Yen. First host, is the information Little Light collected useful to you? Very useful. Mu Yen smiled and patted his head. Thank you, Little Light. Little Light immediately revealed a bashful and happy smile. After ensuring that there were no abnormalities in Tianguang ruins, Mu Yen left with a few words to Ma Quishan. She didn't know that not long after she left Tianguang ruins, a masked man in black clothes appeared outside the base of the Old Man World gang. Looking at Ma Quishan's figure instructing everyone, the face under the mask slowly curled up into a meaningful smile. Then, his figure disappeared. In the Lan Empire Imperial Palace. Greetings, State Preceptor. The masked man bowed and knelt down. The man sitting by the window didn't turn around. He waved his hand lightly and said, "Get up. Have you found out Yi Liangchen's identity?" The masked man nodded. This subordinate has already obtained some clues. Then he told them about the relationship between Yi Liangchen and the Old Master's #1 gang in the Tianguang ruins, as well as the clues that Ma Quishan had been following Yi Liangchen since the beginning. Yi Qingfeng curled his lips into a faint smile. His pale face suddenly turned red. So, as long as we find out Ma Quishan's identity, we will be able to find Yap Liangchen? The masked man nodded. This subordinate has already ordered people to investigate. I believe there will be news soon. After a pause, he asked again, State Preceptor, what should we do with the little rat that broke into the palace? The masked man seemed to smile bitterly. Among the 4 people of Heaven, Earth, Profound, and Yellow, this subordinate is the fastest. However, this person is much faster than this subordinate. I'm afraid that if he really wants to escape, even you might not be able to catch him. Chapter 36-38. Yi Qingfeng gently brushes away the vines creeping in from the window and casually says, "You know what his goal is, don't you?" The masked man nods and says in a low voice, "His Highness, Lan Luohan." His slender fingers pinch the vines lightly, and the whole vine instantly turns into ashes. Yi Qingfeng can't help but chuckle, then let's do as he wishes. What does the state teacher mean? A person can run away without a trace, but what if he carries a burden? Yi Qingfeng sneers, there's no need to hurry to catch him. Follow them and see where they can go. Wouldn't it be better to catch them all in one fell swoop? The state teacher is wise. This subordinate will do it right away. The masked man bows and leaves. Only Yi Qingfeng is left in the room. He looks out of the window, not knowing where his eyes are focused. He stares blankly as if he's crazy. Very soon. Don't worry, wait for me a little longer. Mayan didn't expect it. Just a few hours ago, Ningyu told her to stay away from the Ning family and not let them discover his existence. But not long after Ningyu left, the Ning family actually came to find her. Mu Yen slowly walked into the main hall of Liberty City for receiving guests. Her eyes fall on a middle-aged man in the hall. This man looks to be in his early 40s, with a short beard and jet black hair, but obvious wrinkles can be seen at the corners of his eyes and the sides of his nose. These wrinkles don't make him look old and haggard, but add a bit of fierceness and inhumanity to him. Hearing the footsteps, the middle-aged man looks over. At the first glance at Mayan's appearance, he suddenly stands up, revealing a trance, disbelief, amazement, and nostalgia expression. But this kind of emotion is only exposed for a moment, and he forcibly restrains it. His eyes regain their coldness, and he says with a straight face, "You are Jun Mayan?" Mayan smiles faintly, sits down on the seat of honor and asks, "May I know who you are?" Seeing her action, the middle-aged man's face suddenly turns cold. He seems to want to reprimand something, but in the end, he forcibly restrains himself. He says with a calm face, "My name is Ning Fuxing, the head of the Ning family in Malmu City. I think you should have heard of me from Ningyu, right?" Mu Yan stares blankly, revealing a somewhat astonished expression. Although he had heard from his subordinates that the visitors were from the Ning family, he did not expect that the visitors were from the Ning family. But she didn't expect that Ning Fuxing would be so straightforward to introduce himself. Ning Fuxing sneered, his eyes full of mockery. "Ningyu thinks I don't know that she snuck back to the Ning family? Do you really think that I'm the head of the Ning family for nothing?" Mayan touches her nose, silently mourning for Ningyu in her heart. Ning Fuxing clenched his teeth in anger. It would be fine if Ningyu wasn't caught by him, but if she was, her fate would be extremely miserable. After Ning Fuxing says this, he sees that Mu Yan, who is sitting in the main seat, has no reaction. He could not help but look a little unsightly. After a long while, he gritted his teeth and said, "Shouldn't you call me grandfather?" Mu Yan stares blankly. She looks down at the old man, whose face is flushed red, somewhat embarrassed, and trying his best to restrain himself. She can't sit still on the chair under her butt. It would have been fine if he didn't know the other party's identity. Knowing that she's sitting in the main seat, but letting her grandfather stand, how can she say this? Mu Yan touches her nose, stands up, and walks down. She chuckles and says, "I thought that the Ning family didn't want to recognize me as their granddaughter." Chapter 36-39. Ning Fuxing seemed to have thought of something. The muscles on his face twitched, and his hands clenched into fists. He forcibly suppressed his surging emotions, and after a long while, he said in a hoarse voice, "Your father is your father, and you are you. No matter what, the blood of my Ning family flows in your body." Saying that, he raises his head to look at Mayan. His gaze is somewhat startled, as if he is looking at another person through her. Then his eyes slowly turned red. "Child, how have you been alone all these years?" Facing such an old man who is suppressing his heart, lowering his posture, and asking her with reddened eyes, even if Mu Yan has a heart of stone, she can't remain indifferent. She gave a brief account of her experience. Of course, a lot of things were omitted. Ning Fuxing stares blankly for quite a while before saying, "It turns out that for so many years, you were abandoned in the Yenwu continent. You've suffered all these years." Mayan smiles. In this world, there was no such thing as right or wrong. Sometimes, it was a blessing in disguise. If she hadn't lived in the Yenwu continent, it would have been impossible for her to have given birth to Xiao Bao, it would have been impossible for her to meet Di Mingju, and it would have been even more impossible for her to obtain the Shin musician inheritance. Her life would also undergo earth-shaking changes. Ning Fuxing looked at her quietly, his eyes filled with admiration and gratification. "Grandfather came here today to take you back to the Ning family. In the future, you will be the young lady of the Ning family. No one will dare to bully you anymore." Mayan inwardly thought, "No one dares to bully me now. It's more like I bully others." However, she shook her head with a smile on her face. "There's no need for that. I'm doing very well here." Ning Fuxing was stunned. He immediately remembered that she was now the governor of Liberty City. At such a young age, his cultivation had already reached the pinnacle of the earth creation realm. Even in the main Ning family, there weren't many people who could achieve this kind of talent. Surprised, Ning Fuxing's face showed a bit of desolation. "Grandfather won't force you to move back to the Ning family, but you should at least follow grandfather back to the Ning family to take a look. The grand elder would be overjoyed to know that Yen Xian's child was still alive. Besides, I've kept all of Yen Xian's things, but I don't know who to give them to. Now I can return them to you." The Ning family's ancestor was called Ning Kunshin. It was said that he was an old monster with the highest cultivation on the entire floating island. He was the one who single-handedly massacred the entire wild sand palace. But for thousands of years, Ning Kunshin rarely left the Ning family's bunker. Many people on the floating island even speculated that he had died of old age. Mayan's eyes flash and she asks, "Where is my mother now?" Is he still alive? Ning Fusheng's body stiffened. His eyes flashed subconsciously, and then he said with a cold face, "Your mother ran away from home 20 years ago and disappeared. I don't know where she is now." Something was indeed strange. Mu Yan lowers her eyes, revealing a shallow smile. "Good. Then I'll follow grandfather back to the Ning family." Ning Fusheng was overjoyed and nodded repeatedly. Good boy. Let's go home now. Old ancestor will be very happy to see you return." "Sixth sister, you want to go to the Ning family alone? Will it be dangerous?" "That's right, little sister. Do you want us to go with you?" Mu Yan shook her head. "Don't worry, Dimingju has sent a lot of people from the Falling Moon tribe to investigate around the Ning family's main residence. If something unexpected happens to me, I'll just ask them for help." Chapter 3640. Hearing this, everyone immediately showed a look of understanding. Tut, little junior sister has always been bold and careful. How could she be so reckless as to agree to go to the Ning family this time? It turns out that there is someone behind her. So, she came to tell us not because she was afraid that we would worry, but to feed us dog food. Mu Yan looks at them with a smile that isn't a smile. Envy, jealousy, and hate? Sorry, envy is useless. Sixth senior sister, you are getting more and more arrogant. Fuck. I also have a little monk. Who wants to be jealous of you? After everyone laughed for a while, Mu Yan stopped smiling and said solemnly, "We don't have a good relationship with Yi Qingfeng, and it's only a matter of time before he finds us. Before I leave, I will open the defense formation of Liberty City. During this time, try not to go out. Everyone must be vigilant at all times, understand?" Everyone nodded quickly. Xiao Bao is now at the critical stage of his breakthrough. There is no need to tell him that I am leaving for the time being. I will come back from the Ning family in 7 days at the latest, or 3 days at the earliest. Mu Yan looked at Chu Moli again. "Third senior brother, I will leave Liberty City to you. Protect everyone, but don't let yourself get hurt." After saying that, she turned around and left without waiting for Chu Moli to refute. Chu Moli was left in a daze for a long time before he chuckled softly. "Leave Liberty City to me? Aren't you afraid that I will destroy it? Malmu City, the floating island." Everyone on the floating island knew that the Ning family was a very strange family. The residences of other sects and aristocratic families were either magnificent palaces or courtyards with small bridges and flowing water. In short, it would definitely be beautiful and elegant. But the Ning family was different. Most of the buildings of the Ning family were underground. Only a bare semicircle of a building was exposed. The gate of the fortress was closed all year round, and the people living inside almost never saw the light of day. The people of the Ning family were obviously powerful and almost invincible on the floating island. But they lived in this fortress all year round, deep underground, and not even a shadow could be seen. As for the matters on the floating island, he didn't care about them at all. So when Yi Xuesong formed the demon-slaying alliance, he didn't take the Ning family into consideration at all. Because he knew that even if he went to their door, the Ning family would definitely refuse. It was more likely that he wouldn't even be able to enter the Ning family's gate. As for the big and small clans and sects in Malmu City, as well as the side branches of the Ning family, they were all shocked. They worshipped and feared the Ning family from the bottom of their hearts. As a result, no cultivator dared to approach the Ning family's fortress within a radius of several dozen miles. At this time, Ningyu was hiding in a huge banyan tree, eating nuts while looking in the direction of the bunker door from time to time. Sitting next to her was a boy, dressed in green, who was also nibbling on a nut. While gnawing, she asked suspiciously, "Miss, didn't you say that you would run far away after leaving the Ning clan? Otherwise, if the clan leader discovers any clues, we won't be able to escape?" Ningyu chewed on a nut and said with a bitter face, "My right eyelid has been twitching for the past 2 days. I keep feeling like something bad is going to happen. I suspect that when I return this time, I will be discovered by eldest uncle. If I end up implicating Mayan and bringing her back to the Ning family, that would be a great sin. Then why don't you go to Liberty City to inform Miss June to be more careful?" Chapter 3641. What do you know? Ningyu threw away the shell and said, I have the blood vein bell. If first uncle follows the scent of the blood vein bell, wouldn't I be leading the way for first uncle? Before she finished, she heard an angry curse from below. Damn! Who is so wicked to throw things around? Don't you know it's on me? The voice was sharp and thin, almost piercing through people's eardrums. Ningyu took a look and was shocked. The one who spoke was not a person but a weird-looking spirit beast. Its body was slender, but its head was very large. On its face, it had a pair of very large and lively round eyes and a round, bulbous nose. Ningyu frowned. Why did she feel this spirit beast looked familiar? Hey, was it you who threw fruit shells all over my face just now? I'm talking about you. Don't think I don't know you're the culprit just because you're silent and half of your body is hiding in the tree. The spirit beast's voice was cunning and thin. When it spoke, every scale on its face was twisting, looking very exaggerated and annoying. Let me tell you, you hit me, so you have to pay me at least 10,000 crystals. Otherwise, I won't let you off. 10,000 crystals? Ningyu screamed. She was still thinking about why this spirit beast looked familiar, but she threw it all out of her mind. Damn, what kind of devil was this ugly spirit beast extorting? 10,000 crystals. Ever since she left the Ning family, she had been living in the wilderness every day. She didn't even have more than 1,000 crystals on her, okay? This damned beast kept asking for 10,000 crystals. Did it think she was a fool? Ningyu jumped down from the banyan tree, clenched her fists, and was about to fight with the ugly spirit beast. However, at this time, a low and magnetic voice came from behind Ningyu, making her ears feel like they were being tickled by a feather. Chiwen, come here. The strange spirit beast that was just showing its teeth and fighting with Ningyu. As soon as she heard this voice, her eyes immediately lit up. She happily ran past Ningyu and ran forward. Master! Ningyu turned around and saw Chiwen jumping into a man's embrace. He wrinkled his ugly face and complained, Master, this brat bullied me and threw fruit shells at me. You have to take revenge for Chiwen. Ningyu's gaze slowly shifted from Chiwen to the man's face. She suddenly sucked in a breath of cold air. Descriptions such as orchids and jade trees, rosy clouds and the moon, dragons and phoenixes, tragic beyond compare, as if something strange had been mixed in, and so on were flying around in his mind. Ningyu recognized it almost instantly. The young man in front of her was the beautiful man she saw when she came out of the heaven-mixing cave. However, at that time, Ningyu only took a glance from the side. How could they meet face to face like now? Even those long, fan-like eyelashes could be seen clearly. How big of an impact was this? Luo Yunxiao raised her head to look at Ningyu after listening to Qi Wen's narration. His ink-black eyes were tranquil and indifferent, without any ripples or ripples, but they were as beautiful as the most transparent obsidian in the world. Ningyu was startled. She subconsciously raised her head and greeted him, Hi, Meinan, how are you? We meet again. As soon as she said those words, she wanted to slap herself hard. Damn it, she was too frivolous and shameless. Then she discovered an even more painful truth. Chapter 3642. So, when she greeted him just now, she clenched her fists, looked obsessed, and almost drooled? Oh, so stupid. It was so shameful. Ningyu threw the nut in her palm behind her to destroy the evidence. While pretending that nothing had happened, she walked forward and put on her most gentle and sweet smile. Young master, I didn't mean it just now. If I hurt your spirit pet, please forgive me. Luo Yunxiao said lightly, It's okay. It's just that it was unreasonable. Master. Chiwen was so angry that she bit Luo Yunxiao's sleeve. The other party was clearly handsome and suave. Just what part of him was making trouble out of nothing? Luo Yunxiao ignored it at all. She narrowed her eyes and looked at Ningyu. It's just that I haven't seen you before. Girl. Before Ningyu could react, Chiwen had already raised her head abruptly. Her pair of large, bell-like eyes were rolling around. Hey, it's really a delicate beauty. Since you are a beauty, You don't have to pay me 10,000 crystals. As long as you let me smell you, I will forgive you. Master, I don't dare to do that. I don't want to go into the spiritual beast bag again. It's too stuffy there. Ning Yu's mouth twitched. How could such a handsome man have such a wretched spiritual pet? She wanted to chop him up and throw him out to feed the dogs. Although she thought so, Ning Yu still tried to show a gentle smile. Young master, you may not have noticed it, but when I came out of the cave of chaos, I saw you in the nine-tailed black sunflower field. As soon as she finished speaking, she suddenly felt something and turned around to take a look. In the distant horizon, something was approaching at lightning speed. Others might not know what it was. But Ning Yu immediately recognized from the fluctuation of spiritual power that it was her grandfather Ning Fusheng's Moon Creek boat. It could travel thousands of miles in a day, faster than a flying sword. But shouldn't her grandfather still be in the bunker? How could he come back from outside? Ning Yu had a bad feeling in her heart. She glanced at Luo Yunxiao and hurriedly said, "The members of the Ning clan have returned. No one is allowed to approach this place. You should quickly find a place to hide." Then, she hurriedly used her spiritual power to send a sound transmission, telling her servant to leave quickly and wait for her at the same place. Luo Yunxiao nodded but did not move. Ning Yu panicked and wanted to pull him away to hide. In the blink of an eye, the Moonstream boat had already reached a position where they could see it clearly. Ning Yu took a glance at the flying boat and couldn't help but suck in a cold breath. Grandpa really went to catch Mayan and bring her back. How did he find Mayan? Luo Yunxiao, who was standing to the side, narrowed her eyes and frowned. Chi Wen couldn't help but shout, "Master, isn't that Mei Yanyan? Why did she come here?" Could it be that Mei Yanyan also sensed yin and yang? Luo Yunxiao pressed her hand down and stopped Chi Wen from speaking. At the same time, a talisman flew out of his hand. As it burned, it lit up and shrouded Ning Yu. The two were clearly standing on the wide grass, but for a moment, it seemed that their auras and figures had completely disappeared. The Moonstream boat soon landed in front of the Ning clan's bunker. The door of the bunker opened and slowly closed as they entered. Chapter 3643. Luo Yunxiao doesn't remove the talisman's effect until the door of the bunker is quiet again. She frowns at Ning Yu. "What do you mean by what you just said? Someone wants to harm Mayan?" Ning Yu blinks. "Handsome guy, ba. Gongzi, you also know Mayan?" Suddenly, she remembered. Back in the nine-tailed dragon sunflower field, that ugly monster also clamored to see Mei Yanyan. It turns out that this Mei Yanyan is Mayan. Ning Yu remembers the anxiety and worry in Luo Yunxiao's eyes at that time, and the ugly monster's words. He was indifferent to her just now, but now that Mayan is involved, his whole person shows urgency and fierceness. She can't help but feel sour in her heart. It's so sad. She was just moved by a handsome man, only to find out that this handsome man is already taken. Moreover, the handsome man's sweetheart is her own cousin Mayan. Ning Yu has lived for more than 30 years, and it's the first time she felt like falling in love. As a result, she fell in love like lightning, and then fell in love like lightning. Is there anyone more miserable than her in the world? But Ning Yu has always been open-minded. She was only moved by Luo Yunxiao at first sight, but it was strangled in the cradle before it had time to plant its roots. So she quickly calms down. She begins to worry about Mayan's situation. Is your relationship with Mayan very close? Of course. Chi Wen yells. The person that Master cares about the most in this world is Mei Yanyan. Tell me, how did she run underground? Was he captured by someone? Ning Yu frowns. I don't know why Mayan came to the Ning family. I clearly told her not to get involved with the Ning family. Luo Yunxiao says lightly, to find her mother. Ning Yu is surprised. You even know this? Woo woo woo, the handsome man really has an affair with Mayan. She really has no chance. Luo Yunxiao doesn't explain much, just asking, will she be in danger? Ning Yu says, I don't know, but my father told me to tell Mayan not to get close to the Ning family. He must have his reasons. Hearing this, Luo Yunxiao turns and goes to the entrance of the bunker. She takes a step and her figure is already dozens of meters away. Damn, what are you doing? Wait, you want to break into the Ning family. Please don't. Handsome, you will be torn to pieces by the array. Handsome, listen to me. I know you want to save Mayan. I'll think of a way to sneak you in, okay? He met Luo Yunxiao's puzzled gaze. Ning Yu grinned, revealing 2 rows of pearly white teeth. I'm Ning Yu, Mu Yan's cousin. If you want to save your sweetheart, then obediently listen to me. I promise to let you see Mayan safe and sound. Xiuxian Continent, Netherworld region. Bang. A loud noise came from inside the house. What followed was a series of muffled cries for mercy, as well as the sound of whips landing on flesh. Young master, we won't dare to do it again. Please spare us. Yan Leji, who was standing outside the door, shuddered. He almost wanted to pull his hand back from the doorknob and run away. But thinking that he was Yin Yuani's personal servant, he couldn't run away from him. Yan Leji took a deep breath and carefully pushed the door in. Young master, how did these idiots upset you? Yan Leji walked over to a sobbing girl and gave her a hard kick on the head. Chapter 3644. Idiots, good-for-nothings, I asked you to serve the young master, but you're all clumsy and can't do anything well. What's the use of you? Yan Leji kept kicking as he spoke. The little girl's face was immediately covered with blood, and she kept screaming. Yin Yuani, who was sitting in the seat of honor with a whip in his hand, looked gloomy and irritable. Seeing the little lass being brutally abused by Yan Leji, a look of interest appeared on his face. Yan Leji saw that he was indeed Yin Yuani's favorite. His actions of abusing the little maids kneeling below him became more and more violent. He even picked up a heavy ornament from the side and smashed it hard on the face of one of the little girls. Several of her teeth were directly smashed out, and her nose was also broken. The little girl screamed and passed out. Yin Yuani looked more and more comfortable. Yan Leji stole a glance at Yin Yuani to make sure that he was in a better mood. He then secretly let out a long sigh of relief and walked forward with a smile. With a face full of flattery, he said, Young master, these useless pieces of trash have angered you. You can just instruct me to teach them a lesson. Why must you let them make you unhappy? Young master, you don't need to deal with these lowly things yourself. Yin Yuani looked at the maids lying on the ground, who were tortured beyond recognition, with an expression of excitement and disgust on his face. Idiot, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and clean this young lord's house. Yan Leji didn't dare to delay. He quickly ordered people to drag the half-dead people out of the room. He didn't stay idle either. He carefully cleaned the floor and the furnishings in the hall with a water cleaning spell. Then he approached Yin Yuani with a smile. Young master, are you in a better mood now? If you don't feel satisfied, why don't you vent your anger on me? If this servant can share young lord's worries, it would be a blessing cultivated over 3 lifetimes. Humph, you're so talkative. Yin Yuani squinted at Yan Leji. He had just vented his anger, so he didn't beat Yan Leji. Besides, although Yan Leji's trusted subordinate was not very capable and had ordinary cultivation, he knew how to read his mind. But he knew how to figure out his mind. She was always able to give him plenty of entertainment. If Yin Yuani really broke the man's body, he would be even more bored in the days to come. Although he refrained from making a move on Yan Leji. However, Yin Yuani was still in a bad mood. He picked up the teacup and took a sip, then smashed the precious snow-topped cypress on the ground. We can't go out. He could not be targeted by the polar domain. Damn it, how long do I have to hide here? Isn't it Di Mingju? Does he really think I'm afraid of him? Yan Leji cautiously said, all of this can only be blamed on that idiot Mulun. He was unexpectedly infected with the curse, and was even caught red-handed by the polar domain. Now, the polar domain has already announced to the entire Xiuxian continent that the calamity of the collapse of the heavens and the destruction of the Spirit Rhino Valley's barrier were all related to Mu Luyun. Furthermore, young master, you are rather close to Mu Luyun. The polar domain has already pressured the domain master many times to take you away for investigation. The domain master is doing this for your own good. That's why she's not letting you out. The people of the polar domain have always been insidious and cunning. If young master really falls into their hands, they'll frame you, saying that the calamity of the collapse of the heavens was caused by young master. I'm afraid that the people of the entire Xiaoxian continent won't let the nether realm off. Chapter 3645. Hearing this, Yin Yuanyi's face distorts. There is a hint of surprise, resentment, and fear in his eyes. Because he remembers what Mu Luyun once tempted him to do during the falling sky disaster. At that time, he was almost mad with anger. He only wanted to kill Di Mingju and Jun Shirtian. His head was dizzy and he didn't know what he had done. Later, when Mu Luyun's actions were exposed, Yin Yuanyi realized that the thing Mu Luyun gave him was probably related to its curse. It was said that once you were infected with the curse, you would never be able to get rid of it. Mu Luyun, that bitch, dared to harm him like this. No, he must be fine. That can't be the curse, not to mention that there is nothing wrong with him now. Yin Yuanyi becomes more and more agitated. He suddenly kicks away a chair next to him. Can this young lord only be locked up here? What's the difference between me and a prisoner? Luo Yunxiao, that bastard, can go anywhere. Who am I to be a prisoner here? Yan Leji rolls his eyes and suddenly says, Young lord, if you are really bored here, this subordinate has a good place for you to relax. A good place? Yin Yuanyi sneered and looked at Yan Leji with murderous eyes. You just said that I can't go anywhere, or I'll be taken away by the people of the polar realm. Now you're telling me there's no good place to go? Do you want this young lord to go to the Tianguang ruins, that damned place where even killing and playing with women are not allowed? Yan Leji is frightened by the violence emitted from his body. He steadies his expression with difficulty and smiles flatteringly. Young lord, this slave means that you really can't wander around in the Xiaoxian continent, but it's different in the mortal world. The mortal world? Yin Yuanyi frowns. Why should I go to that dirty, chaotic, and barren place? The cultivation method related to the dark Yin holy flame in the netherworld realm must keep the meridians and dantian clean without any impurities. If I go to that place, won't my cultivation be unable to progress for a long time? Yan Leji took out a jade slip from his pocket and respectfully handed it to Yin Yuanyi. Young master, please have a look. This was given to me by a family on the floating island. They have already set up the teleportation formation to the floating island. I guarantee that it will not cause any burden or trouble to you, young master. And this family's request is also very simple. They just hope that you can help them with a small matter, and they are willing to pay any price. Yin Yuanyi raised his eyebrows, took the jade slip, and asked calmly, the sky-floating island? Yes, young master. You must know that the floating island is located between the cultivation continent and the cultivation continent. It is filled with rich spiritual energy and a little immortal energy. The barren qi is almost extinct. If young lord only goes for a few months to relax, it shouldn't have any effect on your cultivation. And because the laws of the heavenly Tao in the floating island are chaotic, if you rashly go there, you might suffer a huge backlash from the spatial barrier. The immortals of the Xiaoxian continent rarely go there. Presumably, even the people of the polar domain would never have thought that you, young master, would appear on the floating island, right? Yan Leji's vigorous speech finally aroused some interest in Yin Yuanyi. As he casually swept through the jade slip with his divine sense, the corners of his mouth couldn't help but curl up in a mocking smile. Chapter 3646. You want this young lord to help you by sending this trash that can't even be seen in public? It's quite a good idea. Yan Leji sees that although his words are unpleasant to hear, he's obviously moved. He can't help but smile. Young lord is wise. Young lord, of course you won't be interested in something that a small family from an island in the lower domain can offer. But this is also their sincere loyalty to you, young master. And among the gifts they prepared, there is one that will definitely satisfy you, young lord? Yin Yuanyi looks at Yan Leji suspiciously. What is it? He sees Yan Leji blinking at him in a fawning and mysterious manner. It's a stunning beauty. Yin Yuanyi's face has just raised a bit of expectation, but it's immediately replaced by boredom. Do you think this young lord is as blind as you? There are 3,000 beauties in the Xiuxian continent. How many of them haven't this young lord seen or played with? Can a stunning beauty from a small family compare to Yu Yanran? As soon as he thinks of Yu Yanran, Yin Yuanyi's face suddenly darkens. He really didn't expect it. Linglong Island unexpectedly also has a relationship with Mu Luyun and the curse. And Di Mingju is really ruthless. Yu Yanran is such a stunning beauty, but he doesn't have the slightest bit of tenderness for the fairer sex. He said to cripple her, and directly crippled her. Now that Yu Yanran has lost her cultivation, I'm afraid she's already become an old woman with a face full of wrinkles. Maybe she's already dead. Yin Yuanyi hasn't even gotten his hands on such a stunner, hasn't even had a chance to play with her, but she's already been destroyed by Di Mingju. Yin Yuanyi can't help but grit his teeth when he thinks of this. What is Di Mingju? One day, when his dark Yin holy flame is completely refined, he will definitely turn the polar domain into a sea of fire, and make Di Mingju kneel in front of him and beg for mercy. Yin Yuanyi's words make Yan Leji reveal an embarrassed expression. Fairy Yanran is one of the 4 great beauties of our Xiuxian continent. She's naturally not comparable to ordinary rouge and powder. But from what I heard, the beauty they're offering to you this time is absolutely the best of the best, a stunner among stunners. Young lord, as long as you see her, you'll certainly be satisfied. Yin Yuanyi sneered and said nothing. Yan Leji thought of the huge profit that person promised him, and for a moment, 100 claws scratched his heart. Although he was Yin Yuanyi's confidant, in the nether realm, Yin Wuji was the true ruler. Yin Wuji, on the other hand, was different from Yin Yuanyi. He paid more attention to experts with real strength. As for a sycophant like Yan Leji who only knew how to suck up to others, how could he possibly treat him well? If Yin Yuanyi hadn't been so favored by Yin Wuji and Fu Yushu, Yan Leji would have lost his foothold in the nether realm long ago. Yin Yuanyi's temper was very eccentric. He was tyrannical and self-righteous, so he was never generous. Yan Leji had been living in fear every day, so he did not have much wealth or cultivation resources on him. As a result, after so many years, it was difficult for his cultivation to advance even an inch. If this continued, he would be finished. So this time, when the family of the floating island came to ask for help, Yan Leji looked at the huge sum of money they promised him and was immediately tempted. Yin Yuanyi was high and mighty. He could have anything he wanted. Of course, he didn't care about these things. But Yan Leji needed it. No matter what, he must make Yin Yuanyi go to the floating island. Chapter 3647. By the way, young master. Yan Leji suddenly thought of something, and his eyes lit up. Some time ago, I overheard someone report to the domain master that His Highness has been active on the sky-floating island. What? Yin Yuanyi suddenly stood up. What is that bastard Luo Yunxiao doing on the sky-floating island? Yan Leji shook his head and said in a low voice, I don't know, but hasn't His Highness been looking for something in the mortal world all these years? Maybe he has the same purpose on the sky-floating island now. But I vaguely heard Queen Ming say. Say what? Yin Yuanyi said anxiously, since Mother said it, is there anything that I can't hear? Yan Leji said carefully, Queen Ming said that when the domain master asked His Highness to sign a marriage contract with the demon princess, His Highness refused. Now he frequently goes to the mortal world before he recovers from his injury. I'm afraid that he has a woman he likes on the sky-floating island. Although the marriage with the demon princess has been settled, His Highness probably wants to take the woman back to the Xiuxian continent secretly and raise her outside. A woman Luo Yunxiao likes. Yin Yuanyi paced back and forth in the room, and the expression on his face became more and more excited. That bastard Luo Yunxiao has a woman he likes? How can he like someone else with his dirty and lowly body and soul? He stopped. Yin Yuanyi looked at Yan Leji with burning eyes. Tell me, if I snatch the woman Luo Yunxiao likes, what kind of expression will he show? Will he still be able to maintain his fake mask? Yen Leji laughed and said, "In terms of identity, status, and cultivation, how can His Highness compare with you? If you wave your hand, I'm sure that woman will throw herself into your arms without hesitation. At that time, I'm afraid His Highness will know who the high and mighty Lord of the Netherworld is." Moreover, with His Highness status, he has already married the demon princess, but he still dares to look for a woman outside. Young master, if Jun Shirtion the demon lord knows about this, do you think their marriage contract will still be valid? Yin Yuan's eyes became brighter and brighter, and he couldn't help laughing. Not bad. He wanted to snatch away the woman that Luo Yunxiao was desperately pursuing. He wanted to snatch away everything that belonged to Luo Yunxiao. He wanted to make him hate, make him crazy, and make him crazy. He wanted to let Luo Yunxiao know that he was the true master of the nether domain. His imperial father and imperial mother doted on him. The woman he loved was his. The demon race princess and everything he cared about would all belong to him. As for him, he would forever be a dog under his feet. All right. After laughing, Yin Yuan said excitedly, "We'll go to the floating island right away. You don't need to tell father and mother about this. Ask the people in the hall to cover for me." Yen Leji was naturally in favor of this decision. If Yin Wuji and Fu Yushu knew that he had taken Yin Yuan to an unknown floating island, he might be punished. But if he didn't tell anyone, it would only take him a few months to go back and forth. By the time they returned from the floating island, the domain master and the nether queen might not even know that the young master had left the nether realm. That was really good. Yen Leji beamed and said, "Young master, please wait a moment. This subordinate will go and contact the floating island to open the teleportation array to welcome young master." You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.